Point perspective is a drawing technique that allows us to draw the illusion of 3D space and depth on a flat 2D piece of paper. In one-point perspective, all objects appear to be diminishing towards a singular point or vanishing point. If you've ever stood on a long flat road and noticed it appeared to shrink towards a tiny point on the horizon, you are seeing one-point perspective. To draw one-point perspective, you will need a pencil and a straight edge. I prefer a clear ruler or triangle. You will then draw a horizon line across your paper, somewhere near the middle for now. Once you've drawn your horizon line, you can, anywhere you want on that horizon line, place your vanishing point. You want to draw a small dot, not a large one. Now, all your objects that you draw are going to end up diminishing towards this vanishing point, no matter where they are on the page. To start an object, we always start with the front side of the object. So for a 3D cube, we would start with a square. I would suggest using your ruler to draw nice straight edges. Now to take our object to the vanishing point. So we're going to start connecting our corners to our vanishing point by lining them up with our ruler. I'm intentionally skipping this corner. If I wanted to draw a box that was open on this side so we can see inside it, or if I wanted to draw a box that was clear, I would use this corner. However, since I'm at this time drawing a solid box, I'm skipping this corner. The reason I know to skip this corner and not one of the other ones is this corner, when lined up with the vanishing point, would go directly into the square first before it got to the vanishing point. None of the other corners do that, so I'm skipping this one. So the next thing I need to do is end my sides to make it a full object, not one that just goes off into infinity. So when I'm ending my sides, I want to work with one of the original edges, and I want to draw a line parallel to that edge. I'm drawing it in between these two lines going to the vanishing point because those two lines are connecting to that side. For the bottom edge, I'm doing the same thing. I want to make sure my ruler is parallel to my bottom edge when I draw that bottom line. Let's try it again. I'm going to draw a rectangular cube this time. I'm going to do it down and to the left from our vanishing point. And I'm going to start connecting my corners once more. Remember, the corner you don't want is the corner that, as it leaves that corner, hits the square rather than going directly to the vanishing point. I'm going to go ahead and end my sides again. Making sure that as I'm ending them, my ruler is very parallel to the other edge that I'm ending. Cubes are not the only thing we can draw in one-point perspective. We could do one-point perspective 3D block letters. So I might draw a block letter T. It has corners just like our cube, so I'm going to go ahead and start connecting corners. We have a third option for figuring out corners this time around. So we of course have our corners that go directly to our vanishing point. We want those. We have corners that go directly into our T. We don't want those. But we do have a third corner, and that's one that leaves the T at first, but then hits the T on its way to the vanishing point. So I'm going to draw it until it hits. I'm still lining it up with the vanishing point. It's important to line it up, but I'm going to stop drawing it as soon as it hits the letter T. Now I'm going to end my letter T. You can pick any side to start with, but I'm going to go ahead and start with this bottom edge, as there's two sides to that bottom edge that I need to deal with. Again, I want my ruler to be parallel. And then I can go from there to finish out my other sides of my letter T. All sides should be parallel, so straight down, straight across, straight down, straight across, straight across. Now, while sharp-edged angular letters are the easiest to do, they're not the only kind we can do. We can do letters that have curves. So let's try a letter S, which has a lot of curves. Just to make my life a little bit easier, I am drawing the ends of the letter S nice and straight so that I have a couple corners to work with, and I'm going to start with those corners, lining them up with the vanishing point. Again, ones that go straight from the letter to the vanishing point, we draw. Lines that leave the S on its way to the vanishing point but then hit, we draw until they hit, even if they're teeny tiny. And corners where they go directly into the letter, we don't draw. So that doesn't do a whole lot for our S at this time. So the next things we're going to do is start lining up our curves. So now I'm going to put my pencil on the vanishing point. I'm going to put my ruler against it, and I'm going to rotate my ruler down until it hits the very first part of a curve. And that is where I will draw my line. I suspect I probably need one right around here, so I'm going to line up my ruler below that area, and I'm going to swing up until it first hits that curve right about here, and that's where I'll draw that line. Need the bottom edge of my S, so again swinging over until it hits, and I think I might need one there. I will check and see, and just barely. Oops. So now I need to end my letter S. I'm going to start with the flat side because that's the easiest side to start with. I want to make sure my line is parallel once more. But now the rest of it, we have lines that don't really work with traditional parallel. So instead, we're going to pay attention to the distance we've already established for the thickness of our letter S, and the original curves of the letter S in order to finish it. So I want to kind of keep that same thickness and match my original curves as much as possible to finish the shape of my S. Now in funny areas like this, I'm imagining this line connecting down here and continuing up, and imagine it kind of coming up here, but I'm just stopping as it hits. We might also have letters that have enclosed interior spaces. For example, a letter D. We can again use our vanishing point to figure out that interior space. So I'm going to connect corners first on the outside, as well as my curves. I can go ahead and decide perhaps how thick I want my letter D to be on the outside, but I need to deal with my inside space. It doesn't just get unaffected by one point perspective. So I'm going to line up my corners. My top one won't work, but my bottom one will. I'm just going to line up that corner with my vanishing point, draw it until it hits the D, and then looking at my interior, the exterior space here, I'm going to use that similar depth to draw the inside of my D connecting to that vanishing point line. You might also have letters that don't have any corners at all and also have interior space, like a letter O. So start with outside curves. Go ahead and define how thick you want your O to be, matching those original curves. Now the inside part becomes a little bit of educated guesswork. So how I say it's educated is I'm looking at what the rest of my letter O is doing as far as the 3D space. So it is going up from the letter O and a little bit to the left. So I want to find kind of the opposite end of that on the inside. So I want down and a little bit to the right. So I'm going to come up from here, this down and to the right, and go up and to the left from there, matching my curve to give the inside space of my O. And that is the basis of 1-point perspective.